Hello, Carson with Tool Legit, and today I want to show you how we make these end grain inlay cutting boards. So first of all, you might be asking, what is an end grain cutting board? That's a great question. First of all, before we dive into it, to kind of understand end grain versus face grain, we're going to go to a standard paintbrush. We have all these different pieces or fibers that comprise the brush itself. If we're thinking about this like wood, this would be the face of the grain, where the end of the brush would be the end grain. The advantages of an end grain cutting board are that as you're cutting with your knife and you're chopping things up, you're not over time severing these little grains and making chips and tears in your beautiful cutting board. Instead, you're making cuts into the end of that paintbrush, and it preserves the life of your cutting board. We're going to go through the steps it takes from turning a board that's a standard face grain into an end grain. We start out with some stock. We'd use hardwoods like black walnut, maple, cherry, and then other colors that can really add some beauty and life to your board. So things like yellow heart, purple heart, and other boards that give a natural color to your wood without the use of dyes or pigments or anything like that. We take our wood like this, and they need to be glued up. So this is essentially that paintbrush, right? These are the strands of the paintbrush being glued together. And so we glue them edge to edge. We're left with something that looks similar to this, where we have these different boards that are being glued, but they're uneven, and there's glue squeeze out, and we have to surface both faces of this wood. They need to be smooth because we're going to be gluing them together yet again. Once we have that, usually using a table saw, and we'll cut it into a few different strips, and then we turn them on end to expose that end grain, and we glue these together. Now we have our second glue up that is all end grain, right? It's no longer the face grain, it's been turned on end here. We're left with another one of those rough blanks. So this right here, you can see the glue squeeze out, the general unevenness of the surface of this wood. Well, that's not gonna cut it, no pun intended. And we have to surface it yet again. It's very important that you're doing this correctly, because if you're using a planer or a jointer and it's cutting with its blade and this is the end grain, these boards can shatter or explode under that kind of load. So you have to take extreme caution when you're surfacing one of these boards. Now we're to the stage where we have a fairly flat cutting board. We're getting close to the final product here. At that point, you could put a round over on it, sand it to final finishes, put your favorite wood conditioner, and you could put it right to use. But here at Tool Legit, we do take it a step further. We do an additional cutting board where we glue our faces together, we surface them, we chop them up and make them into this blank. We get this, we then have to surface it down like this, but on a much thinner level. That is going to be our inlay that we're going to put into that original cutting board that we had made. This is a very rough beginning cutting board. This is the female side of a cutting board that has been carved. A lot of people look at these and they think, did you use a laser? Did you kind of just burn those images into there? No, the wood has been removed with a very high tapered bit like this, where it plunges in and it removes out this material. We're shooting for 1/4 of an inch when we do this. That means that there's 1/4 inch of wood that's down inside of this cutting board. This inlay has already been carved out and it's been glued down into the original cutting board. Here's a couple that just show you kind of the depth that we're talking about. This is 1/4 inch deep. This is yellow heart, and this right here is maple. So these get glued into our cutting board, right? This piece here is a mirror image of this board. We have our inlay and our cutting board, and they have been put together with glue. They need to be pressed together until that glue sets up, so that we make sure we get a nice deep setting in of that inlay. And then we move it over to this press we have here, and we tighten it all up. So we're gonna leave that overnight, and let that glue set up. Now that our cutting board has had a nice relaxing overnight spa visit, we take it out of the press and we move it over to the bandsaw. Now, as you'll notice here, there is a lot of exposed blade. You've got to be extremely careful when you go through this next step. Bear with me, this is an illustration. It's not going to look exactly like it is. And we need to remove all this extra material. I mean, boy, that would be a crazy cutting board there. No, we got to expose the beautiful inlay that's hidden underneath this. We're going to turn the bandsaw on, set this thing on side, and we're going to run this very carefully through, if I can simulate this, and slice this chunk off. And that's why this one looks the way it looks. It's already gone through a bandsaw. We've got a 1/4-inch walnut inside of this maple cutting board. We're gonna sand, 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 sand. For our finishing, we like to dunk our cutting boards into a mineral oil bath. Afterward, we will put a nice liberal coat of a mineral oil and beeswax formula over the top of it and buff that out. We take a branding iron and we press that into the back, gives our company name on there, and we put some feet on it. We have a mountainscape that's black walnut and then maple inlay, stainless steel feet on it. That same style, that moose, but this is a completed one here. And again, this one has stainless steel back feet on them. One thing to note is that on an end grain cutting board, they do need to be fairly thick, right? Because in a face grain, as remember the paintbrush, the strength is in those fibers running the length of the board. Well, we don't have that. They're plenty strong as long as they're around an inch thick. So that gives a lot of glue surface area between each of the strips. So we've got a moose black walnut with a yellow heart inlay. Again, this is not stained. This is just the natural beauty of the wood. And this has some beautiful brass feet on it. And then we have here kind of our maple bacon. So we've got a maple cutting board with a black walnut inlay on it. And just beautiful getting those contrasts in those different species of wood. I hope this helps you as you are figuring out a end grain cutting board and then specifically inlaid end grain cutting board. I hope that you enjoyed it. All these boards can be found on the website. I hope you learned something and you see what's involved. And this is the 30,000 foot view of what it takes to make one of these. I hope you enjoy and you have a great day.